For one of the only times all season, the Phoenix Suns bench led the way in a victory at home over the Atlanta Hawks. On today's episode of Locked On Suns, how that bench pulled it off, and why the beginning of the fourth quarter finally looked a little different thanks to that group. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 7 seasons. The host of the Just Basketball Show, wherever you get your podcasts, and the creator of the Locked On Suns Insider community, where I write and do video breakdowns. You can sign up at the link in the show description below. But thank you for joining us for today's show, wherever you're finding it. We are free and available everywhere, including YouTube. Free and available everywhere, including YouTube. So just hit that follow or subscribe button. Get a new episode in your feed every single Monday through Friday. Become an everydayer and get locked onto the Phoenix Suns all season long right here with the show. Thousands of people check out this here podcast every single day. Become one of them. Sign up for the Locked On Suns Insiders at the link in the show description below while you're at it. Today's episode brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA when you make your first deposit to get a first deposit match up to $100. The Phoenix Suns win 128-115. We have a familiar moment of the game today as the Suns take down the Atlanta Hawks, and it is the beginning of the fourth quarter. That's happened a lot this year, but a lot of the time it has been for bad reasons, and the Suns were in that danger zone once again, up just 3, heading into the fourth quarter. Atlanta keeping it interesting, Devin Booker in foul trouble, and it very much felt like, DeJounte Murray's going to get hot, or they're going to muck things up, get some offensive rebounds, whatever the case may be, and Atlanta is about to make this interesting. Instead, the Suns extended their lead. And so this group with Beal, Bull, Gordon, and O'Neal on the court together extends a 3-point lead into a 10-point lead by the time that Book, Durant, and Grayson check in at the 7-minute mark. And, it ended up becoming an 11-point lead at the free throw line. The free throw attempts that Nurkic had at that stoppage. So let's call it an 11-point lead. Basically, extend the game, extend that lead by 8 over the course of 5 minutes. How did they do it? Well, a whole lot of Bradley Beal. And I feel like a broken record, but at the same time, I don't mind that this is the third straight episode talking about Beal, because Beal, it's going under the radar, I think, right? You would not look at this box score, 12 points, 9 assists, 4 rebounds, 5 turnovers, and say, wow, Bradley Beal had an amazing game. You probably wouldn't have said that yesterday when I think he was like 1 of 6 from the field, and I featured him in that one as well. But he deserves it, because in this stretch, he was the anchor of everything the Suns were doing on both sides of the ball. Defensively, he was matching up with DeJounte Murray. There were multiple possessions where, think about this, Murray and the Hawks were so preoccupied and worried about Beal's defense at the point of attack just being disruptive and fighting through screens and contesting what it was that Murray was trying to do, that they ran early little screens and bait in order to get Beal to switch off of Murray, even if that meant having O'Neal switch onto Murray. So the guy we think of as maybe the best one-on-one defender, role player, specialist type of guy, Atlanta was living with that matchup just in order to get Beal off of their best player. That is a great sign of the respect that the opponent had for his defense. And then on the offensive end, I recommend checking out the watch back that I did. If you are a Locked On Suns insider, if you are not, I'm so sorry that you missed that. If you would like the next one, which I will be doing one from this game, you can sign up at joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSuns or visit the link in the show description below to join the Locked On Suns insider community. I talked in the video watch back that I did about last night's game, Wednesday night's game against the Sixers, what it looks like when Beal is running point, so to speak. And I think it's still a work in progress. A lot of the time, it's less structured than maybe when Book or even at times Durant is the focal point of the offense. With Beal, it can often just be a simple pick and roll. I thought in this game, though, they mixed it up, and this stretch illustrated that. It was a lot of stuff very similar to what we all got a little excited about when Beal made his way to Phoenix, with the dribble handoff and inverted pick and roll and multi-screen attack that Beal ran with the Wizards last year, with Porzingis in particular, but also Kyle Kuzma. And Beal may not start a lot of possessions with the ball in his hands when they play this way. A lot of the time that's going to be Jusuf Nurkic or whoever is going to dump it off to Jusuf Nurkic. But very quickly and with good energy and pace, the Suns flow into a dribble handoff for Beal, which basically is the same thing as a pick and roll a lot of the time, except it allows him to get the ball on the move, to maybe count on better spacing a lot of the time, and attack the defense from there. And he did a great job. He got into the teeth of the defense and kicked it out. He dumped it to Nurkic. He got it back once off of an Eric Gordon drive and made a catch and shoot three from the left wing. Beal just had the juice on offense, on top of disrupting Murray and on top of setting his teammates up. And what you get when you add all of that up is, again, a fourth quarter in which the Suns not only win it, but win it decisively, 32-22, open the quarter with the 16-5 run. And again, in the first 4.5, 5 minutes of the quarter, Beal being the only starter out there, Book in foul trouble, Durant getting his rest, and it's Bradley Beal on the bench and Nurkic who extend the lead from 3-11 and put the game away, basically. It got cut to 5 around the 5-minute mark, but hey, it was 3 when the quarter started. Could have gotten a lot hairier if not for this stretch. Next, I'm not forgetting about the other guys. This was the best bench performance by the Suns all year. Frank Vogel said it. I will tell you why it's true, and we'll get into all of that coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by Prize Picks, the best place to play daily fantasy sports. I would even go so far as to say that they have fixed daily fantasy sports, made it worth doing. And it's demon time at Prize Picks, meaning you can now win up to 100 times your money with as little as 4 correct picks, turning $10 into 1,000. Demons and goblins are the newest and most exciting way to play at Prize Picks. Squares marked with red demons or green goblins get you different payouts, and you can now win up to 100 times your money, again, with as few as 4 correct picks. What I love about Prize Picks, it is not a head-to-head, not a pool, not a league. It is you versus the player projections. They also offer quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types, all combining to make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use the code LockedOnNBA when you do to get a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com. Promo code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy with Prize Picks. Keeping it rolling, 128-115 Suns win, and count them, 47 bench points. 47. That is a season high for the Suns, and it came from everybody. This was a balanced bench performance if we've seen one at all this year. So let's just go one by one, to be honest with you. Gordon, picking up where we left off in that fourth quarter. He made 2 threes. This was a very promising game from Eric Gordon. It feels like the Suns' management of his injuries over the course of the season, allowing him to rest when he needs to, has been helpful. But still, as we saw on Wednesday night, Gordon can have these games where he does somewhat disappear. He had 2 shot attempts in 19 minutes on Wednesday night, and I pointed that out in the recap show. However, I think you have to be excited about this game because this was the rare 20-plus point game for Gordon when he actually came off the bench. I've talked about this, I think I did it last week on a show, where Gordon's production and his biggest games have often come when he just fills in as a starter and he's able to get a rhythm early, play off of the stars on this team at a high level, and everything else. Again, when we look at that fourth quarter, when we look at the second quarter, Gordon was able to get it going, affect the game, impact the game, and fill it up as an offensive player. 21 points, but also 5 assists and 0 turnovers, all in only 24 minutes, playing largely with the bench. So, again, the maintenance of the injuries, we're at game 70, and he is still able to dip into a vintage type of performance. That's what you want to see, and this was a good showing for sure. Drew Eubanks, you have to give a shout out to by way of the moment when Jusuf Nurkic goes down, and we'll have a Nurk report to close out the show, as we often do here, but he gets clocked in the face by Clint Capella, goes to the locker room, I believe in the second quarter, ends up coming back into the game, and during that time, Eubanks played absolutely great. It is always going to be somewhat up and down, right? But he had a pair of nice blocks in one-on-one situations, was playing with the type of activity and intensity that he needs to on defense, and I think was a motivating force for this team. There was one moment in a pick and roll that Kevin Durant turned it over in, where he was visibly frustrated with Eubanks. So, again, it is a little bit of a roller coaster with the Suns' backup center, but 7 points, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks in 16 minutes, especially when they really needed it because Nurkic was on the bench. They didn't really want to go small against Atlanta, and Udoka Azubuike was not active in this game, so they really did not have another choice, and he rewarded them. He rewarded Frank Vogel for trusting him. Let's go to Bol. I don't have a ton on this one. He made a kick-out 3 in the beginning of that fourth quarter during the stretch I highlighted at the beginning of the show. Took it in rhythm, made it great. The play that I want to highlight, though, is he did have a turnover stepping on the baseline. So again, just to be honest here, it's not perfect with these guys, with this Suns bench group, but nevertheless, still a good one to see. A good performance is what I mean. With Bol, the play that I wanted to highlight is the block that he had, because those are the types of plays that he's at the basket, gets in position, goes vertical, contests without fouling, and I believe, yes, got counted for the block. Those are the types of plays that we assume he can't make, if I'm being honest, right? Like, when we worry about what Bol might look like playing center for this team, those types of plays are exactly the ones where you tend to get nervous. But he pulled it off, and I'm not saying play him at center, but those are the types of plays that show the coaching staff that you can do a little more, and maybe that is something to tuck away, and we'll see him at center at times. I don't know, but I wanted to shout that out because that was an impressive play. And then Royce O'Neal, look, he's on fire since the past 3 games, basically. But that comes off of a stretch where he was ice cold. We know what this looks like in Phoenix, right? We don't have to look back too far. Jay Crowder was like this. I think what we have to realize about Royce as a shooter is that he is going to be streaky. He can go 5 of 20, and then he can go 15 of 20. Week to week. You don't really know. And I think in the playoffs, it will be series to series. Torrey Craig was like this as well, right? So that's fine. The Suns are not relying on him in a heavy way. It does not appear that my hopes or guessing that he may enter the starting lineup is going to happen anytime soon. So right now, I think he played 10 minutes on Wednesday, 15 tonight. As long as he's taking those shots, continuing to make the defensive and playmaking plays that we know he can, he's going to impact the game in a positive way. So you add all of that up, again, season high, 45 points for this Suns bench. All 4 guys had a plus-minus of plus 13 or better. They all actually got some significant run, which allowed the Suns starters to, still Beal, Durant, 37 minutes. That's not awesome, but it could be worse. It has been worse plenty of nights this year. And obviously, in that second and fourth quarter, those were the only 2 quarters the Suns won, and the 2 best quarters by far overall, courtesy of that bench unit. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself and say this problem is solved, but I do feel like sticking with the same guys, continuing to adjust the rotation to get players in position and in lineups that they are effective in is paying dividends for the Suns, and a night like this just caps it off, just highlights it, just punctuates it. All right, last but not least, a Nurk report on a night when the man got smacked in the face. And one small observation about Kevin Durant before we get out of here. First, today's show brought to you by eBay Motors, my favorite place to buy everything that I need for my number one ride or die. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy, is also what keeps that ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Let's close out the show. Starting with a Nurk report. My favorite of the final segment bits on these recap shows, personally. It's a new one, obviously, this year. Quickly became a favorite. Nurkic, 1 of 5 from the field. Did get to the line 8 times, so the beating that he took, I guess, was noticed by the officials, but, another Nurkic thing, misses 3 of those, so he's 5 of 8. Gets to the on the offensive glass, and only 2 assists, but, I pointed it out in a couple of those moments in the second quarter. I felt like throughout this was a pretty good Nurkic as a playmaking hub game, as a screening hub game. Some nights that's just not going to turn into assists or buckets, but a couple of the misses that he had in this game as he went 1 of 5 also did become, or I guess stem from, offensive rebound opportunities where Nurkic was getting his own miss, and, that can pile up the missed field goals, but end up with either a point at the end of the day or a trip to the line. So that was there. But really with Nurkic in this game, Clint Capella just beat him up, and it is a signifier of what's gone on a lot this season with Nurkic. And he's inconsistent. He bobbles passes. He smokes layups. He can get into it with officials like everybody on this team seems to. The defense has its limitations, as we saw in Boston and in Milwaukee. But as I've said before with this guy, he brings fire with this group, and I do think the, physical burden that he takes on in these games also is a big part of the respect that this group has for him. It's really not easy to fit in with a big three, fit in with a super team, whatever you want to call the Suns. And I think, we talk a lot about Grayson Allen. We talk plenty about Jusuf Nurkic, but to not only have the respect and perform at a solid level, but also to kind of be the garbage man, be the punching bag. I think that matters here. So, I'm not going to be too much of a, poet here and try to say that the guy getting hit in the face is some sort of beautiful symbol of something, but it's just another reminder of what this guy means to this group. Last but not least, I don't know how to phrase this one. I guess it could be a bench mob vibe check in terms of looking at the rotation. I guess it could be a pre-take. Maybe I'll just say that. It is a Phoenix Suns pre-take, which is another of my favorite bits here in the final segment of these recap shows. And it's just something to keep an eye on. We can complain all day or question all day the offensive rhythm, the offensive flow when we see Kevin Durant not be involved as much as he ought to be, or just feel out of the flow of the game, right? And maybe that's certainly fair to do that. I've done it. But in both of these games now, this back-to-back, Durant had multiple uncharacteristic and unforced turnovers. Just imprecise passes or unsettled decisions, just antsy, it feels like, or off in some kind of way. And he's 5 of 15 from the field. He finally did get some help from the refs tonight. Made a couple of, momentum threes and everything else. Not a bad game from Durant by any means. Not a terrible game. But the man seems tired. All right? That's not some sort of scholarly, deep, heartfelt analysis by any means. It's not exactly revolutionary to say that somebody who has had to handle the load that Durant has and play the minutes that Durant has this season might be getting worn down, but we gotta work against that, right? Like, we've already seen Vogel adjust during this portion of the season where the big three has been healthy, and even in a lot of games, and I've pointed this out in the past, when when Book or Beal have been hurt lately, and it's only two of them healthy, even then Vogel has pared back Durant's minutes, made sure he doesn't play the whole fourth quarter, for instance, and things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do even more of it, Obviously, a back-to-back's not ideal, but Saturday with 2 games against the Spurs, can the Suns get a blowout win in one of those games and rest this guy? it's something to monitor because I'm not talking about injuries. I'm not trying to jinx anything or do that. I'm just saying, even if he's active 37 minutes on the second night of a back-to-back, he's clearly physically okay. I'm not trying to say there is an injury that he's dealing with or predicting that he'll get one. I'm just saying you want the 100% version of Kevin Durant. It's right now for sure as you fight for seeding, but definitely on come playoff time. You want the best version of Durant that you can possibly get, the most well-rested and physically ready to go version of Kevin Durant that you can get. I don't think that version is playing right now. So between now and the playoffs, it's up to Vogel, this coaching staff, the Suns, other players to pile up a blowout where he can actually sit, all those types of things to get him ready to go by the time the playoffs come, to where he can be the guy that, was on the outskirts of MVP conversations and a legitimate candidate for first team All-NBA and things like that as recently as like a month ago. That's what you want. Don't forget to sign up for the Locked On Suns Insiders. Click the link in the show description below or visit joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSuns to sign up. I will have a video watch back of this fourth quarter stretch that I broke down at the beginning of the podcast, but I'll go through the whole fourth quarter. So even those moments where it got a little dicey late, I'll talk about those as well in addition to the bench moments. So you'll get that. You'll get my analysis on every game day, reaction to all Suns news and rumors, anything that I find interesting in Suns world, podcasts and interview quotes, good articles to read, all sorts of good stuff. Daily messages straight to your phone from me. You can respond if you want. All that good stuff is in with the Locked On Suns Insiders. I will be back Monday with Brandon Duenas talking about Suns Spurs from Saturday. Looking forward to the Monday matchup and whatever else comes up along between now and then. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy that Spurs game. And I will catch you guys next week.
You are